Have you ever wondered what makes us follow certain strategies or drives our behaviors and our responses? Why is it that some people get anxious when asked to speak in front of a large audience, while some others feel excited about the same? Why a person looks at a cockroach or a lizard and jumps and shrieks and shouts, while another person may simply feel amused looking at this person thinking, what is the worst that a cockroach can do? Why some people regularly have an internal conflict when the alarm rings in the morning, while others just get up immediately? This is exactly what we will focus on understanding in this video. Did you notice how in each of the above scenarios, there is an external stimulus that results in a behavior or a response? The response in some cases is desirable and in some undesirable. This is popularly known as the stimulus-response theory in behavioral psychology. But wait, are these behaviors really responses or are they reactions? These are reactions as the behavior is not a result of conscious thinking but is more like a reflex to the stimulus. But then again, are the behaviors really reflexes to the stimulus, or is there something happening between the stimulus and the response, something that is happening so quickly that either the conscious mind is not able to register or is not able to control? Let us look at each of the scenarios one at a time to understand this. A person who gets anxious on being told that he needs to speak in front of a large audience is getting anxious because he is imagining, hearing, thinking about what can go wrong when they are on the stage. It is like a story playing in his mind. Probably people throwing slippers and tomatoes at him is the story that he is running. Whereas the person who gets excited about being asked to speak in front of a large audience probably has a different story playing in his mind. Maybe someone giving him a standing ovation. As far as a cockroach is concerned, most people who have a phobic response to a cockroach will tell you that logically they understand their response is too exaggerated, but that they are not able to control it. Probably the story playing in their mind is also exaggerated, like the cockroach becoming really big and eating them alive. Did you notice the difference between the two scenarios? In the early scenario, the person may have been aware of what happens in his mind. That is the story that causes the anxiety response. But in the later one, the story plays so quickly that the person may not even be aware of the scene. In fact, most people who have a phobia are not consciously aware of the story playing in their mind. In the third scenario, the person who wakes up without a conflict wakes up because the story that the mind plays when the alarm rings is that which motivates him to get up. So the story for a boy who has recently developed a strong crush on, let's say, a girl who jogs every morning is the one where he gets to see her and maybe even talk to her. The story is enough for him to wake up immediately. But for a person who finds it difficult to wake up and instinctively puts the alarm on snooze, the story probably revolves around the comfort of the bed and the blanket, or revolves around doing something that he would rather prefer to avoid. Makes sense, right? So instead of just stimulus response, we have added a new element between them. In behavioral psychology, this new element is known as organism, and the theory is known as Stimulus-Organism-Response theory. Basically, the theory states that the stimulus triggers a response based on an internal evaluation of the organism. This internal evaluation can be conscious or unconscious. In each of these scenarios, the internal story becomes the basis of the unconscious relatively automatic evaluations that triggers an emotion which leads to the response. In general, this response can be internal like increasing of heartbeat, sweating, and external like shrieking, shouting and jumping. Which brings us to the question, where does this story come from? This story can be a result of our past experiences, which may be personal or observed, or it could be a suggestion, or may purely be an imagination of the person. More than the source of the story, what is important for us is the understanding that between the stimulus and the response, there is something happening. Something that is happening in the mind. So, if we would like to change these relatively automatic responses, we can begin with changing or replacing the existing story with a new one that supports the desired response. So, if you could change the story in the mind of the person who is anxious about public speaking, from people throwing tomatoes at him to people giving him a standing ovation, it would help, wouldn't it? For the person who created a story of the cockroach becoming bigger, what if we made the cockroach smaller in the new story and added humor to it? Would the person still have the same phobic response? Most probably not, right? The same can be applied to the person who wants to get up early in the morning but isn't able to. In short, from the point of view of change work, both in self and in terms of therapies with others, this understanding can be incredibly useful. In fact, the same understanding can be applied to even conscious responses that we make. For example, when I look at a particular dress and decide to buy it, I buy it again because of a story that may include the answers to the following questions. Whether I need it, does it look good on me, is it in my budget, what will people around me tell me when they see me wearing this dress, and so on. It is just that the story is more a result of conscious analysis and the other ones were more automatic. Once you understand this, the application of this model becomes really broad. We can apply it in sales, in marketing, in journalism, in politics. Pick an area and you would probably find a way to make use of this understanding. Having said that, for this understanding to be applicable in our day-to-day life, we still need to answer two questions. First, how to change the story, or what processes can be used to change it. And second, what if I don't know the story? What can be done to bring the story from the unconscious to the conscious? Answer to these questions is what we will explore in the next few videos.